On this edition of Native Report, we climb into the boxing ring and learn how the sport is big business across Indian country. We visit TCF Stadium and attend the dedication of the Tribal Nations Plaza. And we tour the Lewis and Clark exhibit to learn about Sacagawea and her rightful place in history. We also hear from our elders and learn something new about Indian country on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. Boxing is no doubt a physical sport. Some would call it an art. But boxing is also a business, and it does have its entertainment value. The Mille Band of Ojibwe offers several nationally televised fight cards each year. And for organizers, it is more than two opponents stepping into the ring.
Since 2002, the Mille Band of Ojibwe has offered professional boxing events, and it was shortly thereafter when the band decided to form its own boxing commission.
I participated as a fan and was not real happy with the competition. It was, to me, not really a show because it was one-sided, and I don't know who regulated the bout, but it wasn't the state Minnesota commission. Because we didn't have one at that time, so they had to go outside the state and get their approval. And you know, it just was not a good show. It was all one-sided. You know, there's basically the someone building up their record in boxing against someone not very competitive. You know, you might have 1 or 2 wins versus 30, 40 losses, and you know, it just wasn't a show. So that's where my idea came to start our own boxing commission here on Mille. We contacted the Mohican tribe, who already had professional boxing in their own commission, and we basically drafted from their rules and regulations. And that was around 2006 when we started our own. We have 5 tribal members who are chosen from our elected officials, and we ratified them. What they do is they regulate the whole show, starting from the boxers. They make sure that their medical records are all updated, and you know, they're all healthy, and they make sure that they have you know, a good record, you know, so they match their opponents. So which makes a good show for both the casino and the fans.
The band holds at least 6 professional fight cards per year, and the commission is seeking to expand their offerings into other events, such as mixed martial arts.
Before the fights start, we have to, again, clear all the fighters and make sure that the matches are competitive to the best of our ability. Sometimes you'll get a fight that looks real good on paper, their records are even and everything, but it doesn't always prove to be that exciting in the ring. We approve the fighters, we go and check the federal database to see if there's any suspensions, either medical or others. And then we get the judges and referees and medical personnel set up, print up the scorecards, get ready for the show tonight. And once the show starts, we had already conducted weigh-ins last night, so that's taken care of. We'd like to start seeing more MMA action. There was some MMA ultimate fighting style matches held prior to my being here. They haven't had any pro ones now, and we haven't had any events at the Mille Casino, and that's something we'd also like to see change, to where we can bring the big concentration of band members that reside in the Mille area some entertainment that they can get in on too, is instead of just having to travel down to Hinckley to see it.
21 years ago was when an amateur program was set up in the Lake Lena district of the Mille Reservation.
I seen the youth in our area, you know, with basically not a whole lot to do around here. So I thought it'd be a good idea to start a program, you know, and we made a call up to Mille, see if they'd be willing to do any funding for us. And they were. They gave us a $1,000 grant, and we bought all the equipment, necessary equipment for boxing, and we recruited about 8 or 9 youth the very first year, and I found out the information that we needed to get registered, both our boxers and coaches in our club. And from there, we started our amateur program. We started out as a Lake Lena Boxing Club. We do have one of our own boxers who started with our club, who is boxing professional now. That's Tim Taggart Jr. He's actually from South Dakota, and he started with our amateur club as a young boy, 10 years old, and he continued on. I believe he's 23 or 24 right now, so he's been boxing professional for 3 years, I believe.
Councilman Davis has a boxing background and knows the sport can teach a young person more than how to physically defend themselves.
They learn how to motivate themselves, how to set goals, and how to reach those goals, you know, short term and both long term. Short term, of course, they want to win their match, and long term, you know, it shows them life skills and, you know, how to get things done, you know, and how to be competitive. And, you know, I think it's a real good motivator for them. Actually, my family is a boxing family, I guess you could say. My father was a Golden Glove boxer, and he trained me, you know, and I used to go down to the Phyllis Wheatley in North Minneapolis and watch the older boxers, you know, and learned a lot from them and their coaches. And my mom helped me out with, she made a punching bag for me, and, you know, my dad trained me in. And also my uncles were boxers on my mom's side. Her brothers were boxers. And so I had a lot of background with boxing. And, you know, I did a lot of training myself, and my brothers learned how to box, and they were all boxers too.
The Mille Boxing Commission works independently from the State Commission and can sanction matches on other reservations.
The sovereign lands in Minnesota and anywhere else in the United States can have commissions come on other than the state commission that is in that state. Some states, the way the legislature and laws are set up, the state commissions, even if invited, can't go on to sovereign land and do their job as a commission. So some commissions, there's probably 15 to 16 native commissions running in the United States that take care of their own fights and then can travel out onto other property to do commission sanctioning as well.
Boxing on the Mille Reservation is a business, but the entertainment value is what draws fans of the sport to the band's enterprises.
We want people to know that whether they recognize the names of the fighters or not, that we always want to put on good fights, lots of excitement, lots of talent. We've been to some of the smaller fights in the area that, you know, the talent's not as good as what we bring here. We don't want to put on a show that isn't full of talent, both local and national. And we want the people to be able to see their local favorites as well as some new national talent that will someday, they'll see again on TV fighting for a world title.
Did you know, over the course of their expedition, Lewis and Clark came in contact with over 50 Indian tribes? Very quickly, they learned the differences among the tribal nations. Mandans lived in earth lodges, farmed corn, and were eager to trade. The Tetons slept in teepees, hunted buffalo, and fiercely guarded their territory. Many tribes had not seen a white or black man before Lewis and Clark. But some tribes in the far west learned some English and wore hats they received from English sailors. Upon meeting a tribe, Lewis and Clark developed a ritual. First, they would explain to tribal leaders that their land now belonged to President Jefferson, their new great father. Then they would give the tribe a peace medal with Jefferson on one side and two hands clasping on the other. Finally, they would perform a kind of parade for the tribe, where they marched around in their uniforms.
The Tribal Nations Plaza at TCF Bank Stadium commemorates the rich cultural history and contributions of the 11 Native nations in Minnesota. And due to the generosity of the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux community, visitors looking to take in a game will come away knowing more about these sovereign nations.
As the sun crosses the midday sky, voices singing to the beat of a drum echo across the newly dedicated Tribal Nations Plaza at Twin Cities Federal Bank Stadium.
Never before in the history of Minnesota has there ever been one place set aside that recognizes all of Minnesota's 11 tribes. Until today, when these 11 sky markers are dedicated, each will represent the 7 Chippewa Indian tribes and the 4 Sioux tribes of Minnesota. This will be a place that we can all be proud of, both Indian and non-Indian alike. Our tribe is proud and honored to be able to make these sky markers a reality for the people of Minnesota.
Tribal Nations Plaza will serve as a welcome and hospitality area on game days and non-game days for all who visit TCF Bank Stadium.
It's been inspiring to see our partners in this endeavor, especially the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux. They have embraced and expanded upon the vision that we had initially. The result is far better than we ever imagined. They have not only been our partners in this endeavor, but along with them, the legislature and the governor, countless individual donors, businesses, and organizations have worked to make this a great place for now and for the future.
Here's an opportunity for the Indian tribes of Minnesota to have a place that's going to be permanent, would be recognized, an opportunity to place some informational kiosks about each tribe. What better place to have a little teaching moment than here at the University of Minnesota? And certainly the stadium is a great venue. We'll have thousands of people passing by, not just those that are going to the game, and not just Minnesotans, but all others that would happen to pass through here. And it would be a great opportunity to provide a little information about each and every tribe here in Minnesota.
The plaza exhibits and celebrates the rich cultural contributions of all 11 tribes in the state.
It started out as an idea that we could use as tribal recognition on our own, and one of the first things that Chairman Crooks decided was that it would honor all of the Indian tribes in Minnesota and not just us. And he also felt like as this process went along, it would be a huge opportunity to be able to, with the amount of traffic coming through, be able to enlighten everybody on the fact that, you know, there are reservations and there are Indian tribes in the state of Minnesota, and be able to locate them and find out a little bit of history about who they are, and maybe start the process of digging into the history of Native Americans in Minnesota.
We were here before there was a university, before there was a state, and we provide a presence to the state even today with our economic opportunities we're able to attain through gaming. We have made a contributing part of this state through economy and certainly through the jobs. Without those new resources, our tribe would not be able to do something at this scale that we're able to do in partnership with the University of Minnesota. We're very pleased and proud to be able to be part of this plaza.
The Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community donated $10 million for construction and $2.5 million for a matching endowment fund to provide scholarships for American Indian and other students.
Probably the crux of it all was ability to provide for scholarships and higher learning, especially for Native Americans that don't often get the opportunity, or they're always in that area of maybe not being able to get funding. So it was a great opportunity for Chairman Crooks to share this plaza with all of the Indian tribes and Native American students.
Tribal Nations Plaza is located on the west side of the stadium and features sky markers that provide information on each of the 11 tribal nations.
In dedicating the Minnesota Tribal Nation Plaza today, we pay homage and express our gratitude to the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community. Without their vision, dedication, and generosity, we wouldn't be standing here today. We also pay tribute to all 11 Minnesota tribal nations whose histories and contributions are commemorated here. You know, we stand here today between a modern, high-tech stadium, but we also stand on native land, Minnesota, the ancestral homeland of the Dakota and Anishinaabe. This stunning plaza is the culmination of a partnership we could only have dreamed of 25 years ago, a partnership between the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community and the University of Minnesota.
One of the philosophies behind contributing to a stadium, I think, is the fact that this is an amateur scenario. It's you know, professional sports don't always promote the best interests for our children and so forth in many areas, and I'm not going to belabor that, but an institution of higher learning and the truest form of amateur football is college football. And so what a great opportunity to take advantage of that, educate people on the Indians in the state of Minnesota, as well as provide scholarships for Native Americans.
Education doesn't happen by chance, and all of us were educated in which education system? The dominant society's education system. People don't know about Popé. People don't know about Chief Standing Bear. People don't know about other efforts. They don't even know about the right to vote. They don't know about Indian Citizenship Act. They don't know about other issues like the assimilation and you know, trying to limit the powers of Indian country to tribal governments. And people should know about that, even our own people. And so education is a big part of it, because we have to instill now, change the education curriculum so that these kinds of curriculums are developed, and they've got to be developed by the Indian people, not by somebody that perceives it this way or interprets it or comprehends it this way, because that's not right. And so if we're going to make a change in the education system, we have to be the ones that provide that solution.
One of the more prominent Native women in this nation's history is Sacagawea. Yet we know very little about who she really was. 3 different points of view offer ways we can look at her impact on history, but all agree she was as much a part of America's history as Lewis and Clark, the 2 famous explorers she helped.
What history would you see through the eyes of Native America? A national traveling exhibition, Lewis and Clark and the Indian Country, explores the account of the famed expedition from the viewpoint of America's indigenous people.
When we in our department found that the visiting display was going to be coming to UMD here, we were interested in seeing what was in it, because we we heard that it was through the eyes of American Indians, looking at the journey in that way. And though Lewis and Clark were never in Minnesota, we certainly were aware of the impact of the opening of the West upon all Native people in North America. And so we were interested in seeing something from the perspective of the indigenous people here. We, as Indian people in those days, could see that the snowball effect of impact was permanent, and that it was going to increase. And so I think that our ancestors in those days had to make some real tough and practical decisions, keeping in mind what was going to be happening to the generations that would follow them. I think that they were thinking about our survival first of all, but how we could manage to hold on to what was most important to us on the ground here on Mother Earth in North America.
The expedition could not have been successful without the help of Native Americans met along their journey.
Lewis and Clark were not confident that they were going to be treated well. I don't know why they would expect to be, of course. And so without the Native people in the expedition helping out, no, it is not possible that they would have made it through. The terrain alone, there were things like they were traveling in 3 large boats when they came to rivers, and there were times when their boats were in danger of capsizing. There was choppy water, there was severe weather, and so the Native people are the ones who really let them have the information and the help they needed in order to make it through the great physical trials of the time. And that really is where Sacagawea and her husband, Mr. Charbonneau, came into the picture. Mr. Charbonneau was a fur trader who wanted to be hired by the expedition and said that he could bring many skills that would help them along the way. We're not sure. He may have been a mixed blood or a non-Indian person, but he had a very young American Indian wife, and so he was offering his services, but really his wife's, as a translator and a negotiator and an ambassador of goodwill.
These core values of hospitality and respect by the various Native nations towards the expedition unintentionally paved the way for the settling of the West.
The way that we teach our children and our young people from the time they're really, really small is that when you have guests, when you have company, that the good way to do things is to make them feel welcome, to let them know that they're welcome here. When they come into your house, make sure that they have a nice, comfortable place to sit and that they are fed, that you share with them the best of what you have.
It seems as though it was to our detriment that we were so accommodating to people. But at the same time, I think that what's important is for us to know our own core values and to live by those. And for Native people to have deterred from that because of the response of the United States, I think would have changed who we are as a people. And I think that you can still see that today as many Native communities continue to try to work with the federal government, with states and cities and counties to establish mutually beneficial relationships.
The traveling exhibit attempts to bring the history of Native nations into the story of Lewis and Clark.
I think in many ways Lewis and Clark have been sort of valorized as these discovery explorers going out, sort of conquering the difficult terrain, and they've been sort of valorized, and I think ultimately we'll see their responsibility with regard to colonization have to be acknowledged, and I think it will change dramatically how people see them.
Our knowledge about Sacagawea is limited because there is very little written about her, but her story is America's history.
There isn't historical record about the rest of her life. Some say that she died not long after of a fever and sickness that was going around. There are a couple of, I suppose we would call oral history stories about an older Native lady who might have died when she was in her 80s, or even one about a woman who had a similar name who died when she was almost 100 years old. You know, I kind of hope that might be the story, that maybe she went on and had a long and happy life and many more children and has descendants all over the place. We don't know. I think what she passed on as far as the good way of being and how a Native woman is raised to act and raised to do things and be brave and be competent and be knowledgeable and share what she knows for the good of other people. I think that impacted America.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, you can find us on the web at nativereport.org. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Tad Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.
Stacy Thunder. See you next time on Native Report.
Stacy Thunder is an enrolled member of and legal counsel for the Red Lake Nation. And Tad Johnson is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Ojibwe and is Solicitor General for the Mille Band of Ojibwe. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Metawakanton Sioux Community, the Mille Band of Ojibwe, the Blandin Foundation, and the Grotto Foundation.